Good morning, everybody. How are you? Good? Awake? So Adriana England was the original person who had this time slot, and she actually got a job elsewhere. So she started this week, and this slot became open, and April said, hey, why don't you reach out to MD Expo and see if you can take the slot. So if you're confused, if you see in the physical guide that it's Adriana England and I'm Andrea Bordenca, that's the story. That's why. So I kept the title. One, it was a request of MD Expo because of what was printed in the guide. And I talked to Adriana and I said, all right, Adriana, winning in HTM, like tell me, like what were you going for? What were you thinking? I want to make sure I'm doing what you did justice. And she said, well, you know, I'm an athletic coach, I'm a mom, I'm a leader. And so I wanted to bring my insights into the story, the context of HTM and what I see as winning. So, you know, of course, take yours and bring yours. So I said, okay, got it. So my background, this is my 20th year as CEO at DESCO Medical Service. We are an independent healthcare tech management company. We're based in Massachusetts and we have an office in Doral, Florida as well. And my father started the company. And so I always knew about HTM in my life. I grew up with it. I see it as my older sibling. And it turns out that I love it. So I was an English literature major. I didn't go into biomed. I don't have a science. I have no proclivity for science or math. But what I love is I love learning and I love collaborating and I love leadership. Through my path as being a CEO, you know, what I love about this industry is how tight knit it is. I hope that's your experience too. Is that everyone's really supportive, and we might be really clear on what we care about and where we want to go in life. But if we don't have a network of support to help and guide us and reflect back the power that we are, we can only get so far. So the first thing I'll say about my experience with winning is finding the people who reflect back our attributes, our values. We can get caught up in other people's expectations of us and have that drive us. So we're going to dive into that a little bit today. The reason why I'm talking about this is on my trajectory in my 20 years of being a CEO is I went to different leadership trainings and learnings. And one of the learnings I went to was emotional intelligence coaching. I also went to somatic, which is nervous system based coaching. I have different types of coaching background. Trauma informed is one of them as well. Like I said, I love to learn. And what I fell in love with in learning coaching, I didn't learn the coaching to become a coach necessarily. I did it for my own exploration because I have a history of addiction, anxiety, severe social anxiety. And so the coaching helped me. I had my own coach. It helped me to move through my own stuff. And as a leader, I want to show up in a powerful way. And I want to share my story because I know we all have a story to tell. So I want to do that, bring visibility and vulnerability myself, model that for my team at DESCO, for my 3 boys at home, and also for all of you, hopefully. So I'm going to click to the next slide. So why this topic, winning? I gave you the background. Adriana chose it and I liked it, so I'm going to adapt it to mine. What I learned about winning is that winning is an assessment and it's a perception of value. So what winning is to me might be different for you. Actually, it probably is different for you in different domains of life. So winning, I'm going to equate to success. So when you think about success, just throwing it out there, like what are the societal expectations or definitions of success or winning that we learn? Money. Anything else? Getting married. Title. Yeah. Anything else that wasn't named that comes to mind? So where I grew up in Medfield, Massachusetts, my parents moved to this place called Medfield that was really, it was known for their great school systems. Turns out I'm not a good student in the school system. My sister was great. Give her a book, she'll study it, she'll get A's. Give me a book, I'll study. It turns out I had 4 learning disabilities that weren't diagnosed until I was in college. So they didn't understand why I wasn't smart like Laura was the story. So I grew up thinking I was stupid. Turns out I don't feel like I'm stupid anymore. But the definition that was taught to me is that you need to do well in school, you need to go to college, you need to get a good job. My father actually said to me, either marry rich or get a good job. Like that was like the context of the house that we were raised in. And he was the son of immigrants, my mother too. So they had their own story about what it meant to be successful and to survive and to be stable. And it was all out of, come on in. No, you're okay. No need to apologize. It's early. And so for me, I didn't feel like I fit in for a lot of my life. And that's why I stressed in the beginning that this is a really strong network of support within the HTM community. So if you haven't found your people, consider me your people, but they're here. I promise you, there are good people here. That's great. A little pep in my step. So that was the emphasis of that. So find your people and let them find you. So the notion about what success is and money and career and promotion, so oftentimes what happens is we live our life, we take the step based on what we think other people want us to do. And so it can be difficult to discern what is my, for lack of a better word, compass versus what are other people's compass that they're directing me towards. And a lot of it has to do with family of origin, teachers, our managers, people at work, our community around us has a very strong influence. We are social mammals. We literally can't survive without other people. So we are strongly bound, influenced. Our nervous systems broadcast and communicate to other nervous systems. So what we can do is when we can discern what is ours versus others, what are others' beliefs, what are their opinions versus our own, come on in. Welcome, good morning. Yeah, come on in. Now you have to. You peek in, we're bound for life. So discerning what is ours versus what is others, and also the discernment of what is fact versus story. So I'm gonna go to the next slide. So we're gonna define, this is my intention for today, is defining what winning means for you, and you probably have an idea of what that is. Discerning facts from assessments, it's one of my favorite things to discern, and you'll find out why. And learning new insights from your peers. So I'm going to ask some questions, and then we're going to just popcorn some stuff out. So I'm just going to ask you to take this moment to just reflect on these questions. And we talked a little bit about it. What have you learned about winning in life and career? So people said money, job title, what else in life? Like you have to get married. Does this interpretation, so those interpretations, do they work for you? And I will zoom out a little bit more. Are the interpretations, are the things that you learned about winning from childhood that you've taken into adulthood, are they still relevant for you? Do you feel like you're living a life that is yours versus what you were taught or what was expected of you? And the way that might show up is you're in a job or you're going for a title or some learning that you are getting, like maybe there's pressure that you don't want to disappoint somebody else. Maybe even like Thanksgiving or holidays, you feel like you should do something because someone's expecting you to, but really in your heart that doesn't serve you. So what are other people's expectations and how is it working for you? And then do you spend time wondering if other people will be proud, impressed, pleased at the expense of your own satisfaction? This is a big one. So do you feel the pressure to have kids or to get married or to get that title? Because it's like, oh, I know this person, like my mom's gonna be so proud of me. My husband's gonna be proud, whatever the story might be. Is it yours or is it theirs? And who gets to decide if you're winning or not? I don't color my hair. This is my gray hair. I grew up in a house that was very concerned about looks. It was every time I gained weight, every time like something changed, if I didn't wear enough makeup, there was a conversation about it. And I want to preface this by saying like my parents are awesome and they're still alive and they're great. And so I'm only picking on them because who doesn't like to pick on their parents every once in a while? And I also have a new appreciation and a new relationship with them, which I'll talk about. So when I stopped coloring my hair, my mother said, oh, you know, I can see your roots. And I said, yes, I'm growing out my gray hair. And she said, oh, well, what if you don't like it? And I said, I guess I'll just color it again. You know, I'm like, but this is a part of the process, and I know it doesn't look great. And she said, huh? And I said, Mom, you know, those are your standards, like the coloring of the hair. And she would say, hey, she calls it rouge, put your rouge on or pinch your cheeks. And I'm like, I don't like to wear blush. It's not my thing. And so I would say to my mom for years, like, that's your thing, that's not mine. And so after a while, she would back off a little bit, and she's like, oh, like she didn't discern that her values and beliefs were separate from mine. So she was expecting me to follow certain things, certain beauty protocol based on her values. And at first there was a little bit of a fight back, and I'd get all defensive, like, Mom, how can you, like, why can't you accept me as I am, right? Typical daughter. And then she would say whatever she would say, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna hold my ground here. And I just need, she's looking out, this is what is important to her. This is what she places value on. It's not that she thinks any less of me. I represent her in some way in her eyes. I see me as a completely separate human being. She was raised in a different generation. So there were different things. I'm like, all right, how can I tap in my empathy to understand where she was coming from, and then hold my ground of what are my standards? What are my beliefs on what's important? How do I want to spend my time? Do I want to spend my time and money going to the salon every 6 weeks because I couldn't color it myself because it came out terribly? And do I want to like spend there's time and money invested in that, right? So where in your life, so make this relevant for you. So if there are things that you're doing because it's out of expectation, you're going to certain learning, you're going to certain meetings that you're like, do I need to be here? Should I be here? Is this a value? So just who gets to decide? So assessments versus assertions. So it's a fancy way of saying opinions versus facts. So assessments are neither true or false. So if I were to say I am short, is that a fact? Am I short? If I go to a class full of third graders, I'm the tallest one there, hopefully. Maybe not, actually, not always. And in different cultures, I am pretty tall. And so assessments can be ungrounded or grounded in evidence, like that lady is smart. Like you might have evidence, you might not have evidence, but we throw around, we are assessment making machines. We come into a room, you came in, I was sitting there, you were making assessments of what's going on, what's this gonna be like, hey, where's Adriana? Whatever was going through your head, right? We are assessment making machines, and a part of that is we are wired for safety. So part of it is that, am I safe in this space? So that's what's going on in the background as well. And because we have our prefrontal cortex and we are human beings, we have the ability to then think and we have our initial responses to things, and then we think. So our executive functioning kicks in, and then we have all these opinions of like how we fit in, how we don't fit in. So we are assessment making machines, and it's because of safety. So assertions are true or false. I am 5'8". Am I 5'8"? Do you think I'm 5'8"? I'm 5'4". But I can say I'm 5'8". It doesn't mean it's an opinion, right? It just means I'm making a false assertion. Like it's true or false. It is agreed upon by a scientific community. So years ago, it could be the world was flat, and the world was flat. It was agreed upon that the world was flat. So now we can say the world is round because there's scientific evidence. People have their opinions, but there's scientific evidence. There's a community of people that come up, it's measurable and observable, that agree that I am 5'4". They have measurement for that. It's agreed upon. We follow those protocols. And assertions are agreed upon. And I could say that lady has 125 IQ, which means she is smart. There's grounding, there's evidence, or there is evidence, it's a fact. So because we are assessment making machines and because of habits, we grow up with these beliefs into adulthood as if they are true. So if I were to grow up thinking that I was stupid or I'm not good at math, I could say that. I'm not good at math. I got Fs. I have evidence. I can tell you. It's still an opinion. I can say, I am good at math. I actually can figure out, I can do addition pretty quickly. I can use an Excel sheet. I know how to do the formulas. I'm pretty good at seeing patterns now in financials. So I could say like, I'm good at math or I'm bad at math and have grounding for both. It's an opinion, it's an assessment. And we can find ways to find evidence to ground the assessment based on fact. So if you look at my grades, that's evidence. If you look at my financials and I spot something, that is evidence. So if I were to believe that I am not good at math. I might not be good at being a CEO. I might not think that I can do it. I might think, I can't do business development, do quotes, have these conversations. It will preclude certain possibilities for me. So the stories that we live in dictate our lives and how we engage with others and what we offer in the world, what we say yes to, what we say no to. Oh, Andrea, I could never speak in front of a room of people like you do. Like I said, I used to have severe social anxiety. We can do anything if we say, I'm committed to it and I can learn. We're very adaptable. So we continue certain emotional and behavior patterns into adulthood. Let me demonstrate. So I'm just going to ask you to cross your arms. Who's done this exercise with me before? Yeah. Cross your arms the other way. Let's see how it is this time for you. Okay, cross your arms the other way. Thanks for playing. Cross your arms the other way. Yeah. And cross your arms the other way. All right. What did you notice? No wrong answer. This is no wrong answer. What did you notice?
Well, one way was more uncomfortable.
One way was more uncomfortable. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. What else? Anything else? What did you notice? Yeah. So a couple things. This is the type of thing. So if we're going into, like, if I carry these emotional habits of reacting to my mom, for example, which carries over into my job. I react if my boss is in a certain way, and if an employee responds in a certain way that triggers something in my nervous system from my childhood, I'm going to react in the same, with the same or similar pattern that I did to my mom. Defensive, how can you? You're threatening who I am. All of that carries with us. So the thing about the crossing of the arms, it's very much about learning a new skill, even if it's an emotional skill. How can we be grounded, settled? How can I stand in a room where years ago I would be doing this, I would be talking fast, my heartbeat would be going like this, and it produces a very different identity. Through practice, so our body learns fast. So yes, it is uncomfortable. And yes, we don't like discomfort. So as human beings, what we tend to do is maybe we drink discomfort away. Maybe we avoid conversations because we don't want to ruffle feathers and we don't want to enter into conversations. But the beautiful thing is that our nervous system, if we do something several hundred iterations, if you think about driving a car, you drive a car when you first learn to drive a car, or when who here is field service on the field? So when you first learn to do, like, repair a particular modality, you go to it and you're like, all right, I gotta look at this, gotta figure this out. And now there's certain things I'm sure you just go to and you just do, right? Our body learns fast. What we do is we stop ourselves from getting to that place of mastery because we don't like it because it's uncomfortable. And as adults, we feel shameful. I don't want anyone to think that I don't know what I'm doing. I have to show up in a certain way. What if I look like a fool? All these things, external expectations, what are other people gonna think of me? So we don't live fully because we stop ourselves. But if we do this enough times, it gets a little bit more comfortable. And then we're like, which arm did I cross first? But if we do this and we're like, ooh, I'm not doing that. Let me go do this over here instead. I'm better at that. Then we don't take the time to adapt and our nervous system can't learn new skills. The whole thing about old dogs learning new tricks, it's a myth. We can. Now, as children, children, like if you look at toddlers, babies to toddlers, they learn how to walk, they fall, they get up, they learn how to walk again, right? There's no shame, there's no story, there's no assessment. And yes, they learn a little bit faster than we do as adults. And they keep going because their emotional disposition is like, this is normal. We normalize it for them. So how can we take that learning and normalize it for ourselves now? So where do you stop yourself because of discomfort when on the other side of discomfort is mastery, like fixing a particular modality because now you've given yourself the time to go through the discomfort to learn it. Where else in life? Are you avoiding conversations? Are there certain ways that you want to show up? Do you want to practice eye contact a little bit and be like, ooh, that's too intimate, that's uncomfortable. But if you practice it enough, it actually cultivates beautiful connection with people and it exudes trust. Little things like this we can do in little micro practices. So these tend to be our autopilot. If I'm going to react to certain situations, if I'm not going to question things, if I'm going to avoid conversations, is a habit. We autopilot, nah, I don't need to, we can justify because we're very smart. We're like, we're assessment making machines. I can avoid that conversation because it's fine, they're fine. When really it's like in our heart of hearts, we really want to have that conversation. So we have the capacity to build new habits and new assessments. Just checking my watch. Are there any questions? I'm gonna grab my coffee. Can I do a pulse check? Is there anything that's showing up or any new insights or, and no is perfectly fine. Yeah.
I think the question that you asked in the slide before about kind of the definition of what winning looks like, it has the interpretation change.
Uh-huh.
I think for me personally, at least, it hit home because so much has changed from when I first started my career.
Yeah.
What winning looked like and what success was defined as.
Yes.
To where it is now at this stage.
Beautiful. Can you, is there any example that you can give?
So,
Like if you were to talk to your younger self?
yes, again, mentioned. So for me in the beginning, it was all about chasing the title and how much money I could make and making sure my dad was proud and that I was living up to his expectations. And now after being a leader and in a leadership role, to me, winning is how successful the people around me can be. And that's more how I find success for myself and seeing the people that I can help develop and become successful as opposed to what title I have now.
That is, it makes so much sense and it's a beautiful example because when we're chasing the acceptance or validation of somebody else, it closes us off from connecting and cultivating real deep relationships with the people that we could be of service to. So that's beautiful. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah, all right. And just jump in at any time.
I love my boss, Andrea, said those are your standards, not mine.
So here's where that plays. No, but I'll give you an example of, so there are certain domains where your boss does not have authority to give you feedback. So let me give you an example. This is one of my favorites. So years ago, I was leading a session about assessments versus assertions because I think it's so important. And one of the women said, I just had a baby and I'm going for this promotion and my boss told me that I should take care of my growing family. I said, oh, interesting. Like, what does your growing family think about this? She's like, well, my husband supports me and knows how important it is for me in my career trajectory. I'm like, oh, great. I'm like, so you have the support at home? She said, yeah. And I'm like, now, what authority does your boss have telling you that you shouldn't go for this promotion? Is there something else going on? She's like, no, he said, I have the skills, I have the capacity. It makes a lot of sense. It's just that I should pay attention to my baby. And I said, okay. I'm like, so here's my take on it. Is there certain areas that people have the authority to give us feedback and to tell us? Like if your boss said, no, you're not ready for the promotion because you really need to work on skill X, your communication. Okay, that's in the domain, that's in the standard of your work. But if they're telling you that in the domain of family, that you should take care of that, that's their standards outside of your job. Like, so you have two options in my book, do whatever you want, right? One is you go back to your boss and say, screw you. No, I'm just kidding. You go back to your boss, just kidding. I went to this leadership thing. You go back to your boss and you say, hey, I just want to have a conversation to let you know that my husband, like I had a conversation. I appreciate your feedback. I know you're looking out for me. And I really, like I have support. I really want to go for this promotion. Is there anything you see pertaining to my work ethic or my standards here, my performance, that would get in the way of that promotion? And if the boss says yes or no, if he says no, just concerned about your family, say, well, thank you, that's taken care of. So will you endorse this promotion, right? Then you have a choice. They either say, oh, yes, of course I will. Or you have a choice. If they're not going to support you, do you really want to continue working for that boss? It's a come to Jesus moment, as they say, right? So when I know it's very difficult to just leave a job, like I know I'm not saying that's easy. It's just one of those things. My view is life is very short. There's always opportunities out there. And how do we find allies? Like who can we find as mentors or going out? And I suggest to people, if you're not getting the support at your job and you're afraid to ask certain questions of your peers, go to somewhere else in the country. Go to some other country and someone in a similar position and reach out and say, hey, I'd like to bend your ear. Go to an industry event, right? There are people that are willing to share. And that's what I love about the Women in Leadership, the WIL community for women here within this industry, is that we can go to each other because the gender dynamics is real at work. There are certain things that women, speaking of assessments versus assertions, that we are taught and that men are taught. Let me give you an example. So it's often, and I've heard this actually from people, men and women, that women are emotional. And how do you deal with a woman when, you know, they're crying because it's like too overwhelming for them at work? And I was like, oh, interesting. How do you deal with a man who's frustrated or angry? You know, so emotions certain emotions are normalized for women and certain emotions are normalized for men. This is not, I'm not saying this is a one size fits all. This is research that's been done. So there was this, there's this leadership coach, his name is Marshall, oh my gosh, Marshall. Does anyone know his name? Marshall, his first name's Marshall. But anyway, he is like this big leadership coach. He's published books, he's great. And he wrote this book saying to everybody, hey people, if you want leadership, you need to apologize more. And so this woman, Sally Hegglesworth, she is also a leadership coach, woman. She said, hey, Marshall, by the way, actually women apologize for things that that are not their responsibility. Now men do too. There are certain men, absolutely, that take the hit, take responsibility for things that aren't theirs. So this is not, again, a one size fits all. This is just saying that there's things that are happening in the societal expectations of what it means to be a woman. Like my mom, like, oh, you do your hair, you wear your makeup, and what it means to be a man. You are strong, you don't cry, right? These are things that we learned. And our families might have been different. You might have learned something different. So in the workplace, when that shows up, when it's like women are seen as emotional, but men aren't seen as emotional, it's like we're in emotion all the time, people. Like it or not, right now, every one of us, we are in an emotion or several emotions. Like I'm feeling happy right now, and I'm also in a little bit of grief. I have to go to a funeral tomorrow. So there's like a lot of things going on. We all have that, right? We all have a mix of stuff and how we show up. But there are certain things, social conditioning, that are normalized. So I'm just bringing this to the attention because, right, you don't want to go back to your boss and be like, but if it's appropriate where they're giving you feedback in a place that doesn't fit and it's not tied to your job and your performance and your outcomes, then hey, that's worthy of a conversation. Any questions? Yeah.
That might be jumping the gun, but
no, do it.
It seems like to be a good leader too, you know, with the success of your team is understanding what other people consider winning and give them part of that.
Yes.
Because to me,
100%.
My mentor that got me into biomed, she looked at me the first day and said, your only job is patient safety and patient care. And I ran with it. That's what I based everything off of, my whole knowledge base. And now my boss is like, oh, PMs are what's important, which I get they're important. But to me, what really drives me is the patient safety and patient care and being part of the clinical world, stuff like that. So to me, yeah, PMs are important if I relate them to that.
Yes.
But I, like to know that people share my same beliefs.
You're bringing, and you're not jumping the gun, you're bringing up a beautiful conversation here because, like you said, you have certain cares and concerns. So as leaders, as managers, we can ask like, oh, hey, what is it? Why are you in this? What do you care about? Tell me, like, I want to be able to support you in this. So that way she might say, or your boss, is it a she, your boss?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So he might say to you, oh, hey, this is related to patient safety. I want to make sure the PMs are done. Like maybe there's a different narrative that he says knowing that, right? Maybe not, but maybe if you bring it up, right? And for us to ask our managers, hey, what's important to you? So even, especially if there's like dissonance or like there's something that you're like, I'm not able to put my finger on the pulse here, but I'm doing things that I think are really good and I'm not getting credit for it. And it might be because your standards of what is good and what is of value is different, because value is a perception, right? I'm never going to buy, I could be a billionaire. I would never want to be a billionaire. I will never be a billionaire. I'm saying that with like I think it's gross. But if I were, I wouldn't buy a yacht. I don't care about yachts. There's no value there. But someone else is like, I want a yacht. And that's a value to them. And that's fine. No judgment. I have an orange Challenger. I love my orange Challenger. People like midlife crisis. I'm like, call it whatever the hell you want. I'm having fun. I like cars. So we like our different things. Someone else is like, my mom's like, is that the only color that was available? I'm like, no, I actually custom ordered it. She's like, you did? I was like, it brings me so much joy. So there were things that we care and value that other people don't. And sometimes we don't get it because we're like, well, if I think this way, why don't they think this way? But if we have a conversation, say, hey, I'd just like to like know customer or boss or team, someone on my team, what do you see as a value to you? I'm spending my time doing this, and this is what I'm thinking is producing value. We don't do this with our customers enough. Because with customers too, it's like, oh, what's important to you? Is it PMs?
Yeah. Well,
is it
even if he came to me, I do
yeah.
agree PMs are important. It's for patient safety.
Yeah.
But if you were to come to me
with a different narrative,
like, oh, well, we care about our patients and their safety. Yeah. It's going to reiterate it with me a lot more and be like, yeah, I want to get those PMs done.
And do you know what is a value to him? Like the PMs, yeah, but do you know, is it a compliance?
Compliance, and that's what the higher ups are grading them on. It's not corrective maintenance, it's PMs.
Got you.
That's it. So to him, he's like, they're breathing down.
Number one. And because you work for him, you do need to satisfy him.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's good to know what that is.
Yeah.
But it's also good to be able to, you're a part of the equation too. Like, hey, this is important to me. So if there are things that you feel like patient safety is in jeopardy and you bring it to his attention, I'm sure he would appreciate that too.
Oh,
yeah. Awesome. No, it's a great question. Anything else? How you doing? Do you need coffee? Do you need water?
You do a podcast about this, get more knowledge.
There's actually, if you look me up, there's plenty of videos and things on, I've done lots of sessions on this that are online. But yes, I would be happy to. So this is just a template for, and you can take a picture of it if it's of service. So questions like, if someone says to you, like last night, I'll tell you, it was really hard for me not to go on the bus. Bryant Hawkins did a bus for his nonprofit, and I had a seat, you pay, you go, and I was like, oh, I want to go. I don't want to miss out. I know it's going to be fun, but I have other stuff going on. So I'm like, all right, a part of me was like, I'm going to go because I said I was going to go, and I don't want to be flaky because that's like an old story of mine. Andrea, don't be flaky. And I'm like, oh, but if I'm being honest, like, am I more concerned about what other people are going to think about me? And I'm like, well, do they even care? Like, yes, they care about me, but are they going to be like, oh, Andrea's flaking out again? I'm like, no, he knows I'm committed. He knows he'll understand. And I texted him this morning, and he was like, I appreciate you. Great. But we put this pressure on ourselves to show up in a certain way for other people at the expense and the sacrifice of us. So is it true for me? If I'm going to make a decision to do something, is it what I want to do? Or is it external pressures from my boss, from my peers, from like people that I'm making up stories about, like Bryant or April or Misty, right? Does it take care of my cares? Like, is doing this, so going out last night on the party bus, is it going to take care of my cares? It's like, oh, part of me is like, yeah, that's fun. I like fun. But it's like, I need rest, and I'm feeling sad because I have to go to a funeral tomorrow. Like, the schedule's disrupted. I, want to be present for my friend. So does what I'm choosing matter to me? And at the end of the night, last night, I'm like, I made the right decision. I'm glad I stayed home because I'm in bed and this feels like I'm taking care of myself. So a powerful way to position the question is, does this take care of what I care about? Does it care? And if it's like me, like my rest and my presence for my friend who's going through a really hard time, or a party bus where there's like a lot of people in a party, like what am I really taking care about in this moment? And sometimes we have competing cares. So then how do we like say, where am I in this? We often don't think about ourselves. Standards, what standards am I using to make this assessment? I really care about what they think of me, my social reputation, they're gonna think I'm flaky, and it's like, no standards. Self-care, presence for my friend, I wanna advocate like I wanna practice what I preach, I'm gonna take this time, it's hard for me to say no, I hate saying no once I said yes, and like what standards? Like integrity, honesty, those are my standards. Any questions? Does this make sense? So that's my sister and I. And we grew up with these, examples or these definitions of what winning is. And one day my sister said to me, so she was a straight A student, like in my view, right, she didn't have to struggle so much because she did so well in school. She had her own struggles, of course, but I'm the little sister, so I'm like, you always get your way. And she's like, you always get your way. And we are close. So what got in the way of my relationship with my sister, I only have one sister, and when I was a young professional, I'm like, all right, my dad taught me, like, you either marry rich or you make money. And I'm like, I'm gonna make my own money. So I had a job that I loved, and it was before I worked at DESCO. And my sister and I had plans to go out together with some family. And I was like, Laura, I'm not gonna go. And I did that often. I'm like, I know I said I was gonna go, but I'm not gonna go. I flaked out. Because I wanted to work. I had a project. I was like so into it. I loved it. I lived by myself in my apartment. And I was like, yeah, I got this. I can do whatever I want in my time. I'm going to work. So one day my sister said, Andrea, I miss you. Like, what the heck? Like, you're prioritizing other things over me. Like, I'm your sister. I thought we were close. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm working. And she's like, yeah, but what about your time with me? And I'm like, Laura, I'm like, we were raised in the same house. That work is really important. She's like, yeah, but we were also raised that family comes first. Like on Sundays, we'd all get together. We'd go to like both grandparents, all the cousins were there. And I'm like, oh, yeah. But I was so focused on work because I did crappily in school. So that was my way of compensating for like me being stupid, which I am not. And so I would dive into my work, and Laura was like, she's good. Like she's feels good in her professional domain. So she's like, I got that on lock. So now I time with my family is really important. So when she said that to me, I was like, oh my God. I'm like, Laura, I'm like, I thought you would understand. Like, I didn't see it as flaking out. When she said, you're like, this is flaky, and it also makes me feel really sad, I had no idea. And I really appreciated her saying that because I was really taken aback. Like, I was so confused. Like, we grew up in the same house with the same beliefs, right? So the one that I adopted and interpreted and lived out was a little bit different from hers. And then realizing like my relationship with her is so important. And I had a boyfriend say to me, your career is going to come before your marriage, when I was in high school. I was in high school because he knew I worked 2 jobs. I'm like, I'm going to prove I'm a good worker, good work ethic. So as a leader coming into like leadership when everyone didn't have a good work ethic like I was so confused. And then I'd get really mad at them because like, how come your work ethic is different than mine? People are different. So we need to meet people where they're at, but also put in check, what are my beliefs? What did I carry through into my leadership position, into my job, into my career that is serving me and not serving me? So because I was focused on my job, I wasn't focused on the people. I was focused on getting ahead, doing well, impressing my bosses at the expense of some of my peers. People did not like me very much at first. And then I learned to be collaborative because I'm like, I love people. Oh my God, I love people. And people love me. This is great. Like we can actually cultivate real, we can be vulnerable and real. Like I didn't know that was a thing. So that conversation that she had with me in my early 20s, where are you? I miss you, made me realize that career for me is not winning coming first. So living this way created angst in me, but pride, my parents were so proud of me. Oh, look at Andrea, she's doing great. She's getting the promotions, da, da, da. But I was like lonely. And I was also an alcoholic. And I also did drugs. And so that's how I dealt with all of it. That's not winning to me, but I thought it was. So this is just my example, right? True for me, what were the externals? So finishing up a work project on a Saturday or going to a family event. So if there were no external pressures, what would I do? What would I really want to do? I would want to be with my sister. So today, this shows up for me and how I choose to spend my nights and weekends. So I hope we're all guilty of this, right? When you're hanging out with people that you love and you're on your phone because it's just a habit and you can just do it and it's normalized now. People at restaurants are at the table, and my husband and I do it too with my kids. And I am very intentional. So we are all, like my family, we've come up with this rule of like, okay, certain nights we have our phone in other rooms. We're watching a movie, we're watching a movie. At night, I have a soon to be 16-year-old. I lay with him sometimes before he goes to bed and I'm like, let's read a book together like we used to do. Because he was on his phone. So one night I came from home from a work trip at 1 in the morning and he was still on his phone and it was a school night. So I was like, Will, buddy, I'm like, hey, and he's like, but what about my brothers? His brothers are in their 20s. They're up late. And I'm like, your brothers are in their 20s. They're adults now. When they were your age, they didn't have this. And they didn't even have, they didn't have PCs. So they would come home and we would make them do their homework first before they did anything else. But they didn't have smartphones like you. Different standards, but we're talking about you, buddy. I'm your mom. I know you don't like it, but this is what we're going to do. At night, I'm going to sit with you for a little bit. Make sure the TV's not on, because he had the TV on and his phone in his face. The TV's going to be off, your phone's going to be away, and we're going to read together like we used to do. So he ended up giving me a hug, which like for a 15-year-old boy to like reach out and give. And I was like, oh, that's surprising. So then after a few nights, he was like, Mom, I'm gonna go to bed. I'd go up and check on him. The TV was off, the phone was away, got into the habit. Cause I'm like, your cognitive development, the impact of you being on your phone, like I get it's like your friends are doing it. I don't give a shit about that. Your cognitive development, like in the future, is going to be impaired. Your emotional development is going to be impaired. You're an adolescent. This is a very important time for you. So these smartphone presence, where are we choosing to like give ourselves permission to just doom scroll or to be on the phone? In the morning, I don't go for my phone. At night when I wake up, I don't go for my phone. It's my new habit, my new practice, because it did not make me feel good in my body when I do that. So in the morning, my phone is to the side. I get up and I'm like, oh, okay, take a breath. How am I feeling? Put my feet on the ground. I am very mindful about going to the bathroom. Like, how do I want my day to be? Versus getting my phone, checking my emails at 6 a.m., which is what I used to do. And some days I do give myself permission to do that, but not every day. On the weekends, no way. And I feel so much better and different. And I'm not saying do this. I'm just saying this is my assessment and what I'm noticing. Awareness creates choice. How am I showing up? How is this impacting me? Where am I being intentional? Where am I on autopilot? So we all have the capacity to choose. So just question, this is my LinkedIn, please do connect with me. I'd love to hear, because we do have plenty of time, if my watch isn't, oh great. I just love to hear like, whether it's, oh, this is something I'm taking away from this, or I have a question about X. I just love to hear from 5 of you on what, what questions or what insights or how will you take this forward? You can speak whatever you want to speak, just giving you some prompts. But I'd love to hear just, how was this for you? I'm sick of hearing myself talk. Yeah.
I feel like when we were speaking earlier, I feel like you were kind of checking my story right now, what I'm doing right now. For example, my boss is like, if you wanted, this is a male-dominant industry, and this is what it takes to, so it's like either you deal with it or go find a job, but don't come in front of me. And, I'm not here to talk bad about my company, but I'm in a position where like, okay, what is the difference between dealing with like men because this is a male dominant, and what's the difference between like, I would say like verbal like abuse or like like a hostile environment, like what would like the line where like what you can do blocking. So and then there's people that are like, this is what it is, like if you can't handle, working with a man like me, then you should find another job. And I'm like, okay, well, unfortunately I don't have anywhere else to go, which is why, I started coming to the event. I paid for this trip myself. So this is why also I'm getting more involved with Will, because like you mentioned, Will is great.
Yeah.
So I'm in a position right now. It's like I want out. However, with the economy going on right now, especially in California, it's a stable, secure job for me.
Yeah. So
and then I'm actually my little background. I grew up wanting to be police officer. So I went to school, got my associates, got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for me. I like to be real estate, I guess. So I joined the industry as a service provider for MRI for 3 years. I learned my way up from warehouse to helping out engineers. So I'm kind of the engineer in a way because I'm certified. And then they had a layoff, and then Maria Denson, I met her when I was selling her trailer, and she brought me into the company I'm in now. And I heard to work for her company, but I left her to the other company.
Yep.
So it's like now I'm an operations manager, so I am a boss. However, I don't like to give myself that title. I want to be a leader.
Yeah.
I want to be. I don't want to be someone running around telling the guys, because I have men from ages 18 to 56 in my company. I want to be, hey, you gotta do this. You gotta be like, hey, what do you need help with today? What do we need to work on and accomplish our goals today? And my boss, he's the main, CEO, so it's kind of like as we're again, man, his definition as a leader is not my
That's important to know. So knowing what the definition of a leader, like what is the leader you want to be, but there's two things that I would just want to reflect back to you. One is you ask the question of, is it toxic? If it feels that way, I trust you know the answer. You know the answer.
Yeah.
We have different thresholds. And I would venture to guess that the men in this room would not be like that. Yeah. It shouldn't be used to weaponize. Yeah. No. There's a lot of, like you said, it's male dominant. There's a lot of organizations, and like I said, they're in this room and also on the floor. A lot of amazing, the reason why I am speaking here today is because in 2017, Alan Moretti, who is on the floor, radiology oncology, he was like, hey, I'd love for you to, I didn't speak yet a lot at that time, but he got me a speaking gig at ICE in Virginia. And that was like my first foray into this industry. I'm like, oh, like speaking at this industry, I've been a part of it for many years. So there are men that can be allies, find them. Yeah. So so it's like, what are the conversations you can have? You're having them. So you're here and you're now a part of Will. So there's plenty of women, including myself, that you can reach out to. There's plenty of men in this room that you can reach out to. Who here is willing to support, remind me? Adriana. Who here is willing to support Adriana if she has questions for you? Yeah.
It's a great industry, and I don't want
It is, yeah. And thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry that that's your experience.
Yeah, I used my PTO here, and when they found out, I'm like, you can't do that. And I'm like, I thought it was my.
It's your PT.
Yeah. It's for my personal knowledge, so if you don't want to send me that,
yeah.
I'll do it myself.
Yeah, thank you. Who else? Questions, insights?
I have a video for that. It's when I first started biomed, it was more dominated. Now we have about 4 out of 12 techs that are women. So it's changed a bit.
That's great.
But when I first started, I felt like it was very male dominated. And of course, I was in there like didn't know anything, and I started as a volunteer. But I found a YouTube video, and I think you can apply to men and women. It's not just women, but I Googled how to be successful in a male dominated field as a woman. And she said, it's a video, it's really old. She said, know your craft, know it better than anyone else, so no one can take that from you. So learn. So that way they don't have anything on you. And eventually, like I did start, and people were like, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. And eventually they started to respect me, and of course I had to prove myself because.
And of course you didn't know what you were doing at first because you were new at it. Yeah.
I proved that I learned and was interested and involved in the team.
So Trish Cower did a presentation yesterday about like your resume and your personal brand, and what she said was, if you're able to demonstrate like I care and I'm committed to this role, like as you're looking for a job or talking to your boss now, I care and I'm committed and I'm willing to learn. I know that I'm not an expert over here, but if you give me the time, the chance, I'm going to do everything I can to learn. Like that's what leaders love to hear, right? Yeah, any other insights, questions, takeaways, remarks, complaints? I'm curious to what, not to pick on you, but I'm picking on you. Men, like what, in the way that I'm presenting like gender societal norms, did it feel okay? Did it feel offensive? Is it just, is there a different way that you see I could have presented that? I'd love feedback.
I've never heard a whole lot of the issues. I did when I was in school 16 years ago, but it was a little different back than going to TCC versus being young. So it's not an experience I've had having used the word role as director.
Right on.
I think it's really evolving now.
I think so too. Yeah, it feels that way. I remember going to biomed offices, and there'd be like a calendar of women and like, you know, in their bikinis or whatever. And I'm like, all right, I can be cool. Like I wanted to like fit in and be like, oh, I'm totally cool with objectifying women. It was very uncomfortable for me. I was not cool with it, but I felt like I needed to like fit in that way. And that felt kind of yucky and disingenuous and all of that. And that that's shifted. That's shifted. And, you know, I had this narrative that I would say, like, the reason why we hire men is because men are the ones applying. And then like, ooh, that's a belief that's going to perpetuate this. So how do I like work on making this more visible to more women? Like, I don't have to believe that narrative that it's a male dominated field because mostly men apply for it. It's like, yeah, that might be statistically true. And there is something I can do about it. It's also an assessment. Like only men are applying. Is that true? No, there's women, but maybe, you know, it was more my dad, my sister and I, we weren't going to be techs. We were going to work in the office. Like he never was like, oh, you're going to go out in the field. Like it wasn't even, no, you're the girls and you're going to do the office work and that type of thing. So that's just what was normalized for us. So we're looking to shift that at DESCO. You know, I'm happy to say our leadership team is mostly women and it wasn't always that way. And we have diversity in our team as well, which I'm very proud of.
And I do think we all bring different skill sets, so I believe that both
Of course.
sexes are obviously.
Yes, with the backgrounds we have.
Genders.
Yeah, yeah.
Or any gender is important.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of it comes from societal expectations and norms. It's like, how do we bridge those and leverage them and bring them full force into the organization? Yeah, you need everybody. Exactly right. Exactly right. What else? We still have a few more minutes.
Are there any leaders that you said earlier? Or is everyone trying to learn how to become?
You're always learning.
Yeah. Well, you watch some people.
I mean, that's, you know, I went to the Navy conference and I did an entry assessment. Because being the experience that I have, the level I have, always started over at now, there be a gender role or age gap or whatever it is, we have to be open-minded to things, conversations like that here.
Yeah.
Or even changing, you know, how, well, what our expectations are, like you said earlier, you know, what we thought we needed versus what somebody
Yeah.
22-year-old is doing, you know, and what we did at that point of our careers to be where we're at, you know, that we thought that's what we should be winning.
Yep.
And that might not be the same mindset
Right.
that's going to be.
And it can change. To your point, like as like we get more information, awareness creates choice. It's like, oh, I have new choices now. You know what? That doesn't work. That doesn't serve me. It once did, but it doesn't anymore. We get to choose and change our minds.
And I kind of think that's what I take away is also meeting people where they're at and what's important to them and
Yeah.
kind of catering to that. Not saying I need to take on their beliefs, but that's what motivates them.
Yeah.
Is whether it's money, whether it's patient safety, patient care, and
Right.
they want to help people.
Yep.
Whether it's
Understanding.
technical
Yeah.
things,
Yep.
maybe give them more technical work as opposed to, you know, I'd say this much of my job is technical work, this much is paperwork, people skills.
Oh, documentation is so
talking to
important.
people,
Yeah.
building relationships.
Yep.
It's not ordering parts, you know, it's a ton of stuff that's not technical work. So maybe getting that for some more
Yeah.
technical work that they're more technically inclined.
Exactly right. How do we leverage strengths by knowing what people, that's, yep,
Yeah.
that's a great point. Well, thank you, everybody. So please connect with me on LinkedIn, and there's the QR code. If you could, you know, assess feedback is very important. I do take every bit of feedback and apply it into my next session. So it is, I like feedback. I actually look for where can I improve? And I'm like, oh, I did this okay, but where can I improve? And celebrating where I feel like I did well. So I do love all types of feedback. And I thank you because it feels very early today. And yesterday was a long day. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Today's going to be more light, I feel like.
Today's going to be light. That's an assessment. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.